Hogsty.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty. It is your hostess with the mostest. I said hostess,
Oh my
but
God!
whatever.
Don't do that. This is not professional wrestling.
Is that too hack 80s or something? I don't know.
It's too bad radio DJ.
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry,
This is
everybody.
the hostess with the mostest on
Yes.
96.5 Pop Hits. And
I hope you're all having a good
I think
Fourth of
it's
July.
hostess part.
Yes. I like hostess cupcakes. That's the closest I get to a hostess.
Or you're implying that you're female, which
That's
we
true.
all know is biologically impossible. So
I'm all open to all people doing whatever they want. I'm just a normal white dude, though.
I'm open to that. I'm not open to you telling me that I have to call you a woman when you're obviously a man. That I'm not.
Well, if they get a gender change, let them do what they want.
Nah, you're not. You're still not.
I would disagree. All right.
It's not surprising you and I disagree on a lot of things except the football team.
Yes.
We can
we disagree on that too now because you don't even really root for the same football team.
I enjoy talking about football. I'll talk about
That's
wide
true.
receivers all day long.
Yeah, and it is a great day to talk about wide receivers, guys. Like we have the Terry contract to talk about. That's the big story from the week because it's been a quiet week otherwise. But we're going to be breaking down the whole wide receiver roster, which is going to be the crux of this show. Jamal, hope you're doing well. We were talking for a while. You've got a lot of irons in the fire these days, which is why we haven't heard from you in like 3 weeks, I feel like.
Yeah, I got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Well, more so, I would say not a lot, but one thing that's two things that's very time consuming. That scouting project and then this move that I'm in the process of. So
yeah,
it's pretty hectic on my side.
Yeah, and congratulations on both though, because both are great for you.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody's gonna have a good 4th of July. I mean, by the time you hear this, it'll be over probably.
Well, no,
so.
Yeah, we're gonna post this on 4th of July.
On the 4th.
So maybe some of you will be listening to this while you're grilling or watching fireworks. If you are listening to a podcast while you watch fireworks, do you hear the podcast? That would be my, philosophical.
You probably question. Yeah, that's a good question.
It's like the tree falling in the woods, but.
Well, I mean, you could turn the podcast up loud enough.
Maybe you're just
depending on where you are. But it depends on where the fireworks are.
Yeah.
If you're right there on the front line, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So you just got to do it as the pregame. Like, listen, like you got 30 minutes. If you're watching it, if you're watching a fireworks show, you got 30 minutes. All right, let me cut the podcast on. If you got an hour, let me cut the podcast on. That'll take me down to the fireworks, and then boom.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the show.
Does anyone have big plans for?
I'm going to the mall with some friends to watch the fireworks, which I haven't done in probably.
Oh, I forget you're going to the DC mall.
Yes.
You're going to the mall?
Yeah.
Don't forget, I don't live there anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm about to just get on the grill. I'll probably do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it Sunday or Monday. I'm thinking Sunday only because there's a football game on, like the little USFL.
Oh, yeah, USFL championships this Sunday.
I figured if I'm going to do... And if the weather was right. So the weather app right now tells me that, we should be good for Sunday afternoon. I'll just go ahead and hit the grill that day and figure out whatever else to do Monday. I may just relax Monday because I'm not really tripping on anything.
Yeah, I think you and I have the same plans, it sounds like, for the most part.
I am volunteering at my local animal shelter on Sunday.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Everybody ought to do it.
Yeah. Gonna go walk a bunch of dogs and stuff?
Yeah, whatever they need for 3 hours.
That's nice.
I figured, my problem is I do want a dog, but I'm gone a lot.
Right.
And I do have 2 older kids with me, but they're not gonna be around in a few years. Mm-hmm. And so I can't leave a dog alone in a house for 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And so I figure the closest I can come is to go help some dogs at the animal shelter.
I mean, I don't know what your is your yard fenced in? Could you? And I mean, you're in Houston. You probably wouldn't want to leave a dog outside for extended.
No, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would never do that.
Yeah.
And plus, we have coyotes around here and stuff, and you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's wildlife, snakes.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found at least 2 water moccasins in my yard, including a full-grown one.
Right.
Both
yeah.
of which, my theory is don't call the snake. I don't. All these people on like that next door thing. You gotta, save the poor snakes and call the, this snake person. No, they get the working end of a shovel every time there's a snake.
When it comes to a water moccasin or most venomous species, I agree with you.
I don't even want to bother figuring out what it is. If you're a snake, I'm gonna kill you. It's as simple as that.
I have
I'll say you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes with snakes too. Like from what I read lately, especially like in the Everglades. I know it's not the Everglades, but still, they're invaders or something like that. Like
invasive,
they're not even they invasive. Yeah, they don't provide any benefit to the area. They do.
Well, those are the pythons.
Yeah. Did you see they found a record-setting python?
Yeah, I saw it. The reason why there are pythons in the Everglades is mainly that people bought them and released them, and then they multiplied, and now it's out of control.
Yeah,
because it's not what Jamal was talking about. It's not naturally from the Everglades. They're naturally from South America and Africa.
Yeah, and Africa and places like
Yeah, but in certain parts of Asia. But yeah, people released their pythons because they were irresponsible owners, and now they've multiplied and now they've taken over.
And they're like 18, 20-foot long pythons.
That one you're talking about was enormous. I didn't see how big it was, but it looked like
it was like 200 pounds.
Yeah, it looked.
I think they said it was 20 feet. It was it would eat a human, like an adult human. If
you're gonna get the working end of a 12 gauge if you're a 20-foot python. To me,
I don't know if that would stop it, honestly.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd have to. If you shot it right in the head, maybe.
I'm a good shot, though. I'll get.
Yeah,
it.
you are. We've talked about that off air. Yes. All right. Well, why don't we first? Let me give you all the update because I looked it up. Dan Snyder and his yacht is currently off the coast of Capricoli, Italy, as of yesterday.
According to the guy who claims to be tracking it.
Yes, there's a guy on Twitter, and it's Dan Snyder Yacht Tracker. I'll give that a plug on Twitter. All they're doing is posting where Dan Snyder's yacht and his plane are at all times.
I still don't know how they're tracking it. Alex and I talked about this on IJB and off the air, and while it's a cool idea and I fully support it, I want to know how you're hacking into the GPS system on Dan Snyder's yacht.
There's like a dozen apps on your phone that can track yachts, apparently. I Googled them.
Does anybody think Dan Snyder is not a coward for doing this?
Well, I said it just before the show. What if he's got his yacht over in Italy the whole time as a decoy, and he's actually somewhere else?
I know, and he's at his house watching porn.
Yeah, exactly. He sends the wife over to Italy on the yacht so he can do whatever he wants at the house.
So the reason why he's doing this, he would claim that he's just on a business trip, but the reason why he's really doing this is that the House Committee for whatever oversight and reform or whatever that committee is that shouldn't exist, they have been trying to subpoena Dan because Dan refused to testify in front of them voluntarily, which I didn't blame him for. That would have been a horrible mistake. But he's dodging a subpoena, okay? And he's dodging a subpoena in the best way a billionaire can, which is to float around in the ocean half a world away. Right. But what he could easily do is he could tell his lawyer, he could agree in writing for his lawyer to accept the subpoena. What normally happens is if you're on semi-good terms, you can call them and work out a date ahead of time. They say, look, we need you to testify. When can you do it? And if the person's really a jerk about it, then you just go subpoena him. But if Dan had been reasonable, he could have had his attorney call that whatever committee, whoever it is, and then say, okay, when do you want him? And work out a date, and then send me the subpoena. Dan agrees to it in writing, and then Dan either appears via Zoom from his yacht or in person. That's the way an intelligent adult businessman would do it, but that is not him. He's a pathetic child.
Yes, you use two words that don't apply to him. Actually, maybe 3, because we all know his business acumen ain't that great, really.
You've destroyed every business you've ever owned, including the Redskins. Yeah.
Right. Right.
It's funny because I was thinking about Six Flags. Like I live near it.
Yeah.
And one of the smaller things that I thought about, speaking of Dan, there's this sign, like the Six Flags America sign, like that's been there for well over 10 plus years, and it's something as small as a sign that looks like it clearly looks outdated, and it's like nobody touched it in forever. And it's like, do you actually want people to understand that this is it's a good attraction, like this Six Flags? Like it's something as small as a sign where you're like, it's the fact that it hasn't been touched. Like it's the same words, it's the same regular
logo, yeah.
Yes, nothing that says I want to come here. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even know if he cares about this thing anymore, and it's just off of the sign alone.
Well, he got run out. They had a hostile takeover.
Yeah, he's no longer involved with Six Flags.
That would be one of the failing businesses.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also think that a beaten up America sign is a pretty good metaphor for our country right now.
No. So it's Six Flags of America. That's,
Yeah, but so that happened, I don't know, 5 or 6 or maybe more years ago now.
That he got kicked out of Six Flags, yeah.
Yeah, it was a hostile takeover, which is, anyway, I'll skip the lecture, but yeah,
and then,
he got thrown out.
The Johnny Rockets thing failed.
Well, Snyder Communications got bought out and disappeared.
Right,
and
Red Zebra.
Money. Yeah.
Yep.
Red Zebra he had to sell because it was failing.
Yep.
Here's one thing that bothers me, and I wouldn't even say, so I was thinking out loud when it initially occurred, right? Because people were trying to tell me, what he was doing. Like, we clearly know he's ducking, but I don't understand why nobody asked this question. Obviously you broke down why he said he couldn't do it, he was on business, etc., all that stuff. And then when the hearing ends, like the initial hearing, right, when Roger Goodell testified,
right,
or I think he was testified, I think he was under oath, but
he was.
when he testified, then I think one of the things that people didn't notice was the fact that they immediately, the Washington Commanders, put out a response, and Tanya and Dan put out a response along with Jason Wright, all in the same one, and then you had Ron Rivera put out a separate one. Now, why didn't nobody ever ask why they put out that statement almost like a couple hours after the hearing was over? If you said you were on business and you couldn't attend, in what way did you even care to put out a response knowing that you were busy doing some other shit? Like, if you were as busy as you said you did, why are you worried about what they're saying? From a message standpoint, like, we know what you're doing. Like, you said you changed the culture. Like, you said you did all these things. You said that the past is the past. Why are you putting out a statement immediately after the hearing if you weren't able to attend it? And you were on business. If you were on business, that should be the first and foremost thing. Like, I understand people can walk and chew gum at the same time, but in that same vein, I wouldn't care if I know what my message is and I stand on my message. Why would I repeat it for the umpteenth time to the people that clearly understood what you're doing? Like, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your message, you shouldn't be focused on worrying about something that you claim you were too busy to attend. You shouldn't be worried about no messaging. Like, you shouldn't be worried about sending it. And that's my thing. Like, why is nobody talking about the fact that there's a message following that hearing from Dan Snyder, even though odds are, like, they just put their name on it, but they still had to see it. They still had to sign off on the message. Like, they had some knowledge of it. Why I don't get it.
Well, I mean, you said it. It's written by PR staff, and I'm sure it's like the PR people said, "Oh God, we got to respond," and so let's write these statements. And Ron Rivera's statement's written too. I mean, he's not that well spoken either. It just reeks of PR.
Yeah, they're both PR hits, or not hits, but PR written.
No, it's a hit.
I will go one further though. They probably were already written before the hearing started. Like,
Alex, I've written these statements for professionally, and because sometimes I go through the lawyers and stuff, and I mean, it's even to the point where you write the quotes. I've written quotes, and we've decided later whose name it's in.
Steve, I've worked in the PR world. I've done the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's nobody think that
right.
Dan wrote a word of this.
Right.
I mean, you have a point. I mean, if he was confident in his program, you could say, "Who cares what this committee's doing?"
Right.
And just not respond and let them do whatever they're going to do. But I mean, it's not a very PR way to handle things, you know.
Yeah.
And so while I agree with you personally, I think every PR person under the sun, because they have to justify their own existence in part, you know, they're going to tell them to do some stupid statement. You know, I've always said that people need to stop apologizing. And I don't mean don't be a decent person. What I'm talking about is if you offend the masses by something you said or something you tweeted or whatever, stop apologizing. It doesn't get you anywhere. Doesn't make anybody who didn't like it in the first place feel any better. Just stand by what you said and live with it, and that'd feel much better.
Situationally depending. If
never,
you did something
no, zero,
wrong,
no, never apologize to the public.
I think it's cool if you understandable if you do it first or second time, like especially if you're a public figure. Like if you do it one or two times, that's cool. But at that point, you got to stand on an apology. Like, there's no point in keep reiterating. Like, Ron Rivera said it like 3 or 4 times. That's all in the past. We're trying to win. Like, all right, we got it. We got it the first couple times you said it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dan Snyder and their messaging. Like, we're trying to turn the corner. All this stuff happened well before this new regime, or I don't know. I forgot what his specific messaging is, but still, like, you're trying to tell people that this happened a long time ago. When I wasn't involved with the team. So like you said it 1,000 times. I agree. Like first or 2 times, cool. But after that, like stop repeating yourself. Stop going out there and saying stuff.
My only issue with what Dan Snyder and that side is doing, they keep on pretending like this was just happening under the Bruce Allen era, and
which is factually inaccurate.
Yes, we have stories going back to the Spurrier era, through the Joe Gibbs era. Yeah, like the Vinny Serrato era.
So, for those of you who don't follow us on the website,
right?
If you don't, you should, first of all. But I wrote a long, detailed piece about this that wasn't nearly as long as I originally. It was originally supposed to be. Yeah. So I, because I'm a glutton for punishment and have no life, watched the entire 2.5-hour hearing.
Right.
It's broken up over 2 days because I couldn't take it. You know, I can only do it in chunks. Then I read all 4 deposition transcripts also. And so I think I have a pretty good handle on what they said. And we broke some of that down last week, Alex.
Yeah, we did. We broke a lot of it.
But, I mean, it's, you know, everybody has said, Jamal's right. They've repeatedly said this over and over and over again. Jason Wright says it every day. It seems like we're moving on. It was in the past. You know, it's his favorite line.
It's the only thing he can say.
Yeah. Well, and there's no reason to continue to grovel. It is what it is. Just stop. I think the biggest thing here is Dan is a coward. He's running from his obligations. It's pathetic. You know, this is what little children do. You know, when you're afraid to face mom or dad, you know, and so you hide what you did wrong, you hide your bad grade, you broke a glass, you try to clean it up before he or she sees it. That is Dan in a nutshell. That is not the actions of an adult. It's not the actions of a man. It's not the actions of a CEO of a company or the owner of a company. It's pathetic. He's pathetic. And I didn't respect him before, but now I have absolutely no respect for him whatsoever.
Yeah, it really is kind of nuts.
Just own it up. You know what? Congress, I don't agree with the congressional committee either. I don't think it should exist, but Congress is trying to subpoena you. Man up and go testify. And if you have to plead the fifth, but show up. Yeah. I just think it's awful.
Yeah. I hope I never get, a subpoena from Congress. If I do, then something's really wrong in this world. But
we need the video guy from the Department of Education to show up.
Well, I mean, look, there are certain things that I know, and this happens everywhere in government. There are certain things I know that Congress probably should know and probably doesn't know. But, that's life.
I have no respect for Congress either, so I don't think there's much of anything I'd like to tell them.
Yeah. Well, all right. Why don't we change gears? We're just gonna go into this Dan Snyder hate spiral if we keep doing this.
It's not that hard to do. It doesn't take
really
much.
Not. Why don't we talk about some good news?
Okay.
And I mean the fact that PFF ranked the Commanders roster as 17th in the NFL. No, I don't mean that, but they did do that.
What, are you trying to irritate me?
Yes, a little bit. Of course, the team made the big move this week. Finally got a deal done with Terry McLaurin. It's perfect timing for us because we're going to be talking wide receivers all the rest of the show. If you don't want to talk wide receivers, if you're like old school and you believe in running the ball, maybe turn the show off.
This is not the show for you.
This is not your show. McLaurin deal, 3-year extension on top of his year he had remaining, $71 million. $28 million signing bonus. Steve, you said you have a full breakdown.
Well, sort of.
Out year by year, right?
And there's been various reports that it's 70, 71.
Yeah.
So we'll be conservative and go with 70. First of all, I like to pat myself on the back because I predicted 3 years, $69 million.
Okay.
And so I was pretty much exactly dead on. I was on for the signing bonus pretty much. I was a bit low for the total guarantee, 7 or 8 million low, but I was very, very, very close. What it means. Again? Pardon me?
What's the guarantee? I had the bonus. I didn't have the guarantee.
Well, the signing bonus is 28, and then the fully guaranteed is 53.
Okay.
And so I was really, really, really close with this. And I mean, it's not because I'm a genius. I mean, I am a genius, but it's because that's what the market dictates. And what that says is they paid him exactly what the market bared out.
You look at what other players are getting, and you base it off.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So the details have not been released or leaked yet, but I went through an analysis of this morning as we were waiting on the show. So with 28 million fully guaranteed or a signing bonus, that leaves 42 million roughly left. Mm-hmm. Some of that might be a bonus, roster bonuses and whatnot. Some of that could be easy to reach incentives.
Right.
But for the simplicity's sake, let's just call that yearly salary. So that leaves 42 million. And then 53 million fully guaranteed. And so that leaves 25 million left to guarantee after the $28 million signing bonus, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you break all that down, you're averaging $14 million a year in terms of some combination of roster bonuses, base salary.
Is 14 million. All right.
Yeah, but it's never, no NFL contracts. It's just that simple.
No.
So my guess is this. He's got another 25 million in guarantees coming because that's the reported fully guaranteed amount. So 25 million over the signing bonus. Normally, that is years 1 and 2 base salary, okay? And so let's assume the roster bonuses are in there too. So I think a reasonable guess here would be $12 million base in 2023, 13 million in 24, and then the remainder in 25, which isn't guaranteed, would be 17. Somewhere along, could be 11 and 14. It could, but somewhere along those lines. And then if you take the base salary, the signing bonus, and apply that to the cap hit structure, you're talking 2023 like 21 million in cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, 2024, maybe 22 million. And then the third year, about maybe 26 million, between 25, 27 million, depending on how it's structured. And then the dead cap means really that you couldn't cut him until 2025, no matter how you look at it.
Right.
It will be impossible in 2023. This cap will be over 40 million. 2024, it'll be over 30. And it's really only the last year, assuming I'm right, and the third year's not guaranteed or it's partially guaranteed. That's the only year they could get rid of him.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. It's probably in that ballpark, but this is my guess, not a reported figure. So that's what I think.
Sure. And I think the bigger thing, and Jamal, I want to go to you for this, is just the sense of relief, I think, for some fans, right? Like we all knew this was going to be a big cap hit no matter what, but they got a guy who everyone loves, and he's staying on the roster for a long period of time now.
Yeah, I think you said it like the sigh of relief. It's kind of funny because people were stressing out. Like, I remember when that when June 1 hit, all you got was 1,000. All right, what's going on with Terry? Where the deal at? It's June 1st. They said we was clearing cap space. All these things. Landon Collins gone now. All these things, and I think patience was always needed for this situation. You never know exactly how to, like, from a public standpoint, you don't know how negotiations are going. You also don't know the fine details of a negotiation. Like, say somebody wanted 5 years, and it don't matter who, like a team or the player. Say somebody wanted 5 years, and the other person wanted 3, given the nature of of the money, or maybe even the future of the team, the roster. Like, they want to be able to have that flexibility to, give themselves or give the team, whatever side, give themselves an option after a 3-year period to see, what's the next steps with this player.
Right.
And that's just one example, but you just don't know the finer details of the negotiation part. So I understand the sigh of relief and the exhale, that we're all able to have. I just think the patient side, you got to believe that it was always going to work out, no matter how much anxiousness you can develop from a situation like this, knowing that it's Terry McLaurin and he's been really good to the franchise.
Yeah. No, I mean, he is so key to this franchise and this offense. And if you think about it, I was actually trying to do this earlier yesterday. When is the last time we saw them offer an extension to any player on offense that they've drafted like this?
On offense?
Yeah, like, is it Trent Williams is the last guy maybe to get like a long-term? Yeah.
Jordan Reed got that one in 15 or 16.
Yeah.
I'm mentally going through the list. Jordan Reed, and then you had the center, Rouye, I believe, got the extension, right? Or one of them on the offensive line got an extension.
Yeah, you're right. Chase Rouye, he got one 2 years ago. So.
Okay, Rouye got an extension. I'm trying to think of other draft picks. To be honest with you, I think Antonio Gibson is coming up, so you'll know something about him soon.
Yeah.
Terry got re-signed. I think that's it. Everything else has been moving pieces. That boy, that 7th rounder, Trey Quinn, didn't get no extension. And neither did the guy Ryan Grant that they love so much. Didn't get no extension. So yeah, you gotta think
Jamison
though too.
Crowder,
like, our situation is so Jameson, did he get an extension?
No, he never got an extension.
Okay, yeah. So, like, you got to think, like, a lot of our guys on the offensive side has been free agents and are better players. Excuse me.
Yeah.
He's more specific. They've been free agents or free agents or trades on trade acquisitions. So it's never really been like a homegrown situation for us, unfortunately, in terms of skill positions.
Okay, so while y'all were talking, I did pull up our stat service that we subscribe to, did a bit of research. So the wide receivers drafted in 2019, Terry McLaurin is second in receptions to Deontay Johnson with 222. And behind him are DK Metcalf, Hunter Renfrow. In terms of yardage, he's also second in yardage. DK Metcalf, 3,170. McLaurin's at 3,090. Catch percentage wise, Hunter Renfrow's beat everybody by a mile at 75%. McLaurin is 6th in that. And then yards per target, he's 7th. And this is, by the way, of the percentage in the yards per target are 50 catches and up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this salary he's gotten is right where it should be.
Yeah.
He's not the elite, and he would be less, if I didn't do this by draft class.
Sure.
But this shows that he was drastically underdrafted. He's a true talent.
Yeah.
I'm personally, if it were me, I would have wanted to probably go somewhere else that's more stable. But I'm happy for Washington, happy for the fans. Everybody recognized and the team recognized how important it was to keep a guy like this, and so that's good for the team.
I mean, the thing about Terry that's actually impressive when you look at his numbers over these first 3 seasons is they're fairly stable across the board, and you don't see that often from a young receiver. You know, his rookie season, he had 919 yards, which is not that far off from 1,000, and he's averaging right around 1,000 every season. He's averaging 1,030 yards a season.
What's more important than that is that Washington has had
terrible quarterbacks,
like a dumpster fire of quarterbacking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where some of these guys like DK Metcalf, has had good, obviously had Russell Wilson and,
right.
AJ Brown and, has had good teams and all of that. Whereas McLaurin has had this, and, the team's had a disaster, which we've talked about ad nauseum and all of that. So, yeah, I do think it's impressive. I think it says a lot about Terry McLaurin's talent. And if you really watch his college film, you knew that he was an outstanding route runner.
Yeah.
What happened, I think the reason why he was drafted in the third round is he got buried at Ohio State because they had so many talented skill positions. Was it this show I told somebody, it might have been on the air, I can't remember. I think sometimes that it's better if you have his kind of talent that you don't go to an Ohio State, an Alabama. I'm not saying don't go D1, big program, but maybe a place that has a bit fewer talent in your group, in your receiver group, you might stand out more. Because I think if you put him on some lesser team, he would have been the man. Whereas Ohio State had Dwayne Haskins and a bunch of receivers and running back, all of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ohio State, ever since, when did that coach get there? When did their coach get?
Urban Meyer, the cheater?
Yeah. When did, Urban kick my player Meyer get, ever since he got there, all they've done is just recruit 5-star wide receivers.
Yeah, that's my point. Exactly.
Yeah, they are usually 10 deep at elite receiver skills.
I guess I should have said Urban Meyer the cheater. It's Urban Meyer the scumbag.
Yes. Yeah, no proof of him cheating.
That's not what I meant.
Yes. Yeah. Nope.
But I mean, he helped cover up bad conduct from his coaches and a lot of things. Urban Meyer is a scumbag.
Yeah. Yeah. All the stuff that happened even back at Florida. Yeah. That's his MO.
Well, Aaron Hernandez, I mean, come on.
But anyway, happy for McLaurin. He's proven to be a number one. You look at him, I know he doesn't really fit a category of being like an elite. He's not a big man. He's not an elite speed guy.
He has a lot of speed.
He has a lot of speed.
4.35.
But, these days, it's not like he's Deshaun Jackson.
No.
But he is a great number one. He does everything good. That's what makes him a great receiver.
Well, yeah, I mean, more importantly, in the history of the Redskins, you and I have talked about this on the show before. You have to go back to Art Monk to find a receiver that Washington drafted that turned out to be an elite receiver. The only other one who even succeeded at all was Jamison Crowder.
Right.
Those two guys in 40 years, more than 40 years.
Yeah, that is ridiculous how long they've gone without a good receiver.
There's been so many busts. I mean, my goodness, Michael Westbrook, Malcolm Kelly, Devin Thomas, Josh Doxson, I mean,
Rod Gardner.
Rod Gardner, there's another one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, and they've just been terrible at picking wide receivers, and they finally got a good one, so that's good.
Well, I have another one too.
Yeah.
Why don't we? I mean,
smoothly transition into the receiver group and talk about the fact that Jahan Doxson has been turning heads right now at camp. And from everything we're hearing from beat reporters and stuff, they might have found another one, Steve. It sounds like he's got a little bit of Santana Moss in him. He's got a little bit of, I hear some Deshaun Jackson because they think he's got good ability to get deep downfield. This might be a heck of a pairing if he and Terry McLaurin both work out now for this team.
First of all, this is our wide receiver position group breakdown.
Right. Yes. I was trying to smoothly transition into that.
I know. Yeah, I knew it was so smooth. Nobody noticed. I don't get too excited over anything that happens in OTAs because I just don't think it's that relevant. Yes, I did see mainly in our comment section on our website that Dotson has gotten rave reviews, but I just have to reserve judgment until the preseason. Because seriously, I mean, who knows? I mean, OTAs is not real competition, so it's
that's fair, but someone posted this, and to jump back to Terry McLaurin real quick, one of the writers posted an early interview he did where he was starting to break down in like a press conference kind of thing, just like why he works well with so many quarterbacks. And he's like breaking down like, oh well, when I'm in my stride, if you step the right way on your turn, like it shows the quarterback where you're going, and like he's doing all this little stuff. Beat writers pick up on that kind of stuff all the time, and that's how they say, oh, this guy's gonna be maybe able to be a good receiver.
How many people have become fan favorites of the Redskins fan base in the off season only to be a bust?
Yeah, I mean it happens, but how many times do you end up seeing a fan favorite become Alfred Morris?
Not many. Very rare.
I think that happens pretty often too.
I don't. Yeah. Not who's successful like Alfred Morris. They don't.
Jamal?
I get the Dotson thing. Like, it's not. First off, there's a couple of things because I don't. The comparisons is one thing. Like when people do those things, because it's like it's blanket. Like what do they mean when people say because you're saying that people were reporting like they saw Santana Moss and Deshaun Jackson in them.
That's more of like I think what fans are saying. What the reporters are saying is he's very high IQ, high football IQ, is what I'm getting.
Okay. I'm about to say first off to the fans, please let's shy away from when we do comparisons, like trying to figure out who the Redskins greats you can compare players to. Like that's very dangerous. And also you got to expand your comparisons. Thinking of Washington players. Now, there's no disrespect to Santana or Deshaun, but you don't help yourself out when you do comparisons just to Washington players. But listen. I think it's important to understand when you talk about potential of a player or something like that. Don't just lean into what you're hearing from camps or mini camps, because I agree with Steve. You're not going to necessarily get a full picture of any player when you talk about opportunities early in the off season where there's no full 11 on 11s, there's no contact really, there's no pads on. You have to kind of see things from a more impactful or important series, which is in training camps where you can put shells on, you can put pads on, and you can go to work in that way. There is obviously what you can see in off season stuff is the IQ things, their athletic ability. Are they where they're supposed to be? I'm trying to figure out how to say that. Are they where they're supposed to be on a given play when you run a certain route against a specific coverage? And what about your football instincts, your natural football instincts? Is it there? And that's what you're seeing in the offseason, and that's actually a good thing. And then on top of that, you got to trust what you're seeing in college. So if you actually watch them in college and watch the film, I know it's hard to get actual film, but if you can see a full route and not just a TV copy of a version, and you're fortunate to see that, then you get a better picture of the player. And that's where I project my stuff off of. With Jahan, I think that they have a good opportunity there to be in a good position for a 1-2 punch. I think that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I believe in. But the off-season stuff, the off-season OTAs and mini camps, you ain't seeing much. You ain't gonna see much there. So all those projections and comparisons, that's dangerous. And that's what gets the all-season hype. It is what it is, but that's dangerous. And
yeah, I'm not trying to pee all over Dotson. I mean, I think he's got the right attitude. I think he does seem to be an intelligent guy. His college film is good.
Yeah.
All of that.
And similar type of player to Terry McLaurin in a lot of ways.
A similar attitude, too, I think. So, yeah, I think Washington fans have reason to be optimistic. But, Jamal's right. I mean, number one, stop comparing him to Redskin greats. It's not fair to him.
Sure.
I mean, not everybody. Santana Moss is a once in a generation player. Art Monk's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, those are not good comparisons. Let him be. I have an idea. Let him be Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
How about that? And be happy with it.
By the way, I think we've multiple times said Jahan Dotson.
Oh, I've done it.
Yeah.
On the 3 or 4 shows, not just today.
No, that's what I mean. Like we do it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you have a reason to be hopeful about him. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be a good player. Is he going to be Santana Moss or whoever? Pick your goodbye. I don't know. We just don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
The thing I kind of like about the idea of him and Terry together, because I think they are in a lot of ways similar, in that they are both very good route runners. They're even similar sized. Like, I think you can do a lot of switching them inside outside together. Like, both of them have that kind of size that you want for a slot receiver. Like, if you like a traditional speedy slot, I don't know if either of them are that twitchy, but we know McLaurin's had some serious success as a slot guy from time to time. And I think Dotson will too. So I'd like to kind of see them both basically lining up all over the place. I think they both have that capability. When I look at this roster, since we're going to be going through the full roster, one thing that really does stand out, just how many small guys they have. When you look at, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. Only 3 are above 6 foot. In terms of how the team's got them all listed. The team has only has Harmon, Gandy Golden, and Cam Sims as 6'4", 6'2", 6'5", that kind of thing. So it's a small group receiving room, which is interesting because if you think about Redskins history, we had some real success with a group called the Smurfs at one point in our receiving group.
They've had a bunch of great, small receivers.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Historically, that's done well for this team, which is weird. That we're kind of just repeating that. Why don't we start, though, looking at the guys who we have. Cam Sims is probably the next most productive receiver that Washington has on their roster in terms of last year. Curtis Samuel was hurt most of the season. He only had 6 catches all year. Cam Sims, 15 catches out of 23 targets, 211 yards. That's your number 2 receiver based off stats last year. So, not ideal.
I think Cam has been underused dating all the way back to college.
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed, I watched almost all of Cam Sims' Alabama film.
Right.
For a variety of reasons. And part of it was because of Jalen Hurts was there and all of that.
Right.
But Alabama barely used him as a wide receiver. Most plays, all he'd do is either be in the flats or he'd be behind the line of scrimmage waiting on a flat pass, waiting on Jalen Hurts to run crazy legs all over the place. That's why he didn't get a lot of attention, because nobody saw him really run routes at Alabama, and it was the Redskins coaching staff at the Alabama Pro Day that said, "Who the heck is this guy?" Mm-hmm. I think Cam is not fast by NFL standards. He has dropped some balls, but he has a knack for getting open. I think he has a knack for using his body well, and he's so big, 6'5", 220 pounds. Yeah. He can just outmuscle a lot of these little corners. I think he's a perfect slot receiver. I mean, because slot receivers are sometimes tiny, twitchy dudes, but they're also big guys who need a head start, off the line of scrimmage because they're not that fast, and that is Cam Sims. So I think in Washington has kind of underutilized him too. He was they cut him, remember, and re-signed him.
He was off and on the practice squad for a long time.
Yeah, and I think the team would be best served by getting this guy on the field on a regular basis because he is very productive. His catch percentage is consistently in the mid to upper 60s.
It's right at
McLaurin's level.
Yeah. I mean, look, he had a good year in 2020. I mean, that was his best season. He had 32 catches, 477 yards. I think that's probably his threshold, is something like that. But there's no reason why they shouldn't be getting that out of him this year, like the next 2 or 3 seasons, or however long he sticks around.
I think he could do more than that if they use him more.
I don't know if he could, but I've always liked Cam Sims. I've always been a fan of just the way he works. I remember always seeing him being hardworking during training camps and just a good dude in general. So, I would love to see him get a few more plays, but you look at this receiver room, it's going to be tough for him now.
I don't know. I mean, we don't know if half these players can even play.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
We do know that he can play.
Yeah, we know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I was only going to mention, I think what y'all are saying is it's two different situations at hand. The first thing is that, we're saying that he can play. The second thing is the coaches probably know that, but what does his snap count tell you last year? Like they had players playing who didn't show any more. Like they 2020 they saw all of Cam Sims, but they had players in DeAndre Carter, Dax Milne, somebody else that I'm thinking of, I can't remember, but Cam Sims is out there and he's only seeing 10% of snaps a game, less than 10%, really, throughout the whole season.
So his season number was 31%. So he had a couple games where he started.
It increased as the year went along towards the tail end of the season, but he started out the season playing around less than 10 snaps a game and playing primarily special teams. So I'm saying that to say, with the time where they were trying to figure things. Oh, De'Ami Brown. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. But when they're trying to figure out positions to play him, they know what he had on the team in terms of skill set. They know what he could do, and yet when they had a full roster with some people that's unproven, they're not putting Cam Sims in. They weren't putting Cam Sims in. So with that being said, like even still 34%, that's not a huge representation of what he can do skill wise. Like they clearly don't have any intention of really playing him, and that's after a year of seeing what he can do, being forced in as a number 2 receiver. So if you're going to expect the same thing, or if you're going to expect something different this upcoming season with the addition of Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel coming back, I think our expectations are out of whack. And that's me saying that from a person who, like y'all know, I love Cam Sims as a player, but I'm just being from a coaching standpoint. I don't think they really have any intention of featuring him in this offense.
That doesn't mean they're right, though.
Oh, I'm not speaking from a right or wrong standpoint. You're right. I think that he should find a way to get on the field more. But I'm speaking from a standpoint of I'm thinking I bet the coaches don't have intentions of featuring him in this offense. Like he has a very specific role, and it's on him to buy in. And I believe with him re-signing in Washington, he clearly is bought in with the comfortability and what they want out of him.
Well, let's talk about why. And the reason is Cam Sims is an undrafted free agent.
Right.
De'Ami Brown is a second-round pick. Curtis Samuel is on a massive contract. Even Dax Milne is a draft pick. Terry McLaurin is Terry McLaurin, the number 1. And so you have guys, at least 2 players that the team has no choice. Sorry, De'Ami Brown is a third-round pick. Right. They have no choice but to feature Brown and Samuel for better or for worse. And so then Terry McLaurin obviously belongs in the X position. So those are 3 guys who have to get the bulk of the snaps just from a contractual standpoint. And so really, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with Jamal. I'm agreeing with him in that it may be tough for him to get on the field, even if this man was the second coming of, Terrell Owens. It's going to take a lot for him to put De'Ami Brown or Curtis Samuel on the bench in 2022. And so I think Jamal is exactly right in that. But he should be on the field more.
I mean, the thing about it, to me, always comes back to the fact that all 3 of those guys that they mentioned, and now 4, because you add in Dotson, and they're all small guys, like I was saying earlier. And there's always a place in the red zone, in situational football, where you need a 6'5" guy jumping up for a ball. Like, you don't want to necessarily run fade routes to small guys all the time. You know?
Jay Gruden did, but it never worked.
Yes. Jay Gruden was like 3 for 90.
What's that, Jamal?
And guess who they got in there? I would say, guess who they got in there now to run those fades? Yeah. Cole Turner. They ain't worried about no Cam Sims. They gonna put Cole Turner out there on the flex out wide as a boundary receiver, or they're gonna have him in the big slot and they're gonna run their fades and they're gonna run their seams to Cole Turner. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not phasing them out because they already phased Cam Sims out. But yeah, you're right. They're gonna have to find situations to use those bigger receivers, and that's the reason why they have a goddamn basketball team for tight ends in terms of 6'6", 6'7" guys, and Cole Turner is going to be key for fades and seam routes and all that stuff because John Bates can't do that, but Cole Turner can.
Well, you have a point. I mean, because Cole Turner really isn't a tight end in any traditional sense. He's really a big wide receiver, and I have him down at 6'6", 246, and he's a draft pick.
Right.
So he's going to get priority over it. So, I mean, I think you're probably right, but I don't know. I mean, maybe we've talked enough about Sims, but I think he's proven that he has talent. I think he just needs a team to believe in him.
I mean, if you're putting the roster together, you're going to at least keep one big guy. I'm keeping him over Gandy Golden, who we can talk about real quick, because Gandy Golden's done nothing, in 2 years.
We threw him in the tight end bucket, but he's not done anything.
Yeah. So, Kelvin Harmon, the only other big guy, he was injured last year. He's really never come back after that rookie year. He kind of started getting hurt. I'm surprised he's still on the roster.
Well, he wasn't on the roster. I mean, for a while, remember they did cut him and they put him on the practice squad and all of that. And he was I believe they put him on a futures contract to start the season, which tells you that, I mean, it transitions to a regular contract in March, but that tells you they didn't think a ton of him.
Yeah. No, all right. Let's jump. I didn't think we needed to spend a lot of time on those guys, honestly, because I don't think either's gonna make it. So, let's focus more on the two big guys from not big, but two guys from last year who I think they were banking on being big contributors and weren't. First, Curtis Samuel, not all his fault. He got hurt, but dude just couldn't get right all last season, and they're saying he's healthy now. Like, do we have confidence in that as fans, or what? Where are you guys on Curtis Samuel?
Not really. I mean, it's. I remember the last time we need to get Mark Bullock back on this show, but I remember Mark Bullock talking about him and called him, the gadget guy, and that's what I think Curtis Samuel kind of is. I don't know if he's a wide receiver in a traditional sense more than sort of an offensive weapon, a little bit.
Right.
So I don't know if he's consistently your Z receiver, for example. I think the only way he's going to be effective is you move him around a lot. You have him do a lot of different things, but is he going to be consistently running complicated, I don't know, out and up routes and stuff like that? I don't know if he's doing that on a regular basis. So in terms of Samuel, I mean, I get what Ron Vera wants to create Christian McCaffrey again. That's what all this is about. He's got a couple of these guys. Will Curtis Samuel do it? I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in him.
Yeah, I don't have much faith in the situation until I actually see it unfold in terms of health related. But I mean, you think about what they did in the off season with the OTAs and minicamp. They had him out. He missed time because he was sore. And that can be true. That's fine, but excuse me, that can be true. That's fine, but in the same vein, when you talk about other players who are dealing with injuries, let me be more specific, not injuries. Other players who are dealing with soreness and stuff like that, they weren't missing time. They were still out there. Like they were still on the practice field. And that could be anybody. Like it's very unlikely that Curtis Samuel was the only person who missed time because he was sore. It's very unlikely that Curtis Samuel was the only person that was sore. He may have been the only person that missed time And out of a abundance of caution, like I've never heard that term be used for a person that's okay. Like that's different. So for me, training camp will be interesting, like because the reporters are going to be there every day. They like you can't block access in training camp.
Right.
And then when the regular season comes in preseason, you want to see more too. You want to see him get those reps in preseason. You can't hold him out that time. Like let him get some reps in. Like whether it's just a series or maybe 2 series, you got to see how he flows because when that regular season starts, you want him to hit the ground running, not necessarily easing him back into it. It's been a whole year. It's been a year and a half. Like come on, get him influence. So no, I believe it when I see it.
Yeah, all right. So I think we're all in the same boat there where, I'll believe it when I see it too.
Definitely. I'm definitely in that train.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Diami Brown, kind of a letdown. He didn't he was 12 catches, 165 yards last season. So some growing pains there.
Look.
Let me say because I do gotta.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to say one thing about Diami.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't be surprised if Diami has a bounce back season. I liked what I saw on film. I did a film breakdown of him, and posted what I saw. He does a lot of things in terms of the vertical game. He's really good in terms of his route running, his ability to get open. Like he has knowledge of leverage and things like that. But he does have some things to work on, like identifying or knowing plans against like certain coverages, certain man coverages, or certain techniques. Excuse me. There's certain things that he has to work on, and his hand usage at the line of scrimmage can get a little bit better against press coverage. But just don't be surprised if he has a bounce back season against this with this quarterback who has like a mindset to push it downfield. Like they're going to be looking for him. So that's what I have to say about Diami. He's not a terrible player. Don't believe the hype that he can't get off press or can't get off the line of scrimmage. Excuse me. He has ways, but he has to get better in terms of developing hand usage and things like that. But there's plans there. But all right, fellas, I gotta go. But I appreciate this once again. Hopefully I can get back next week as well. But I'll text y'all throughout the week.
All right, man.
We'll see you.
All right. Yeah, Jamal, busy man, like we said. So see you
next
week.
I watched Diami Brown's college film.
Right.
And I thought the same as Jamal. I thought that it was going to take him a year or two to really get used to the NFL. He does have a lot of natural talent. He's a decent route runner, but he just looked like a guy who was going to take a while. And I think that's what we saw last year is it just wasn't working for him. But he does have a lot of talent. So I think all is not lost with him, as Jamal said. And especially if Washington has a more stable quarterback situation, which it is Washington, so God only knows. But if he has that plus year development, I think he could, in fact, be a lot better.
The one thing that I wonder about Steve, and call me crazy here, the fact that we drafted his college quarterback, Sam Howell, it's got to help his mindset at the very least.
Sure, having a buddy that he knows there, of course.
So especially playing quarterback, somebody who, that relationship is pretty key.
Well, I don't know if one of my favorite things to do is watch the I just got drafted videos.
Sure. They're always good, feel good.
Yeah, so I stumbled on Sam Howell's, and who was the first person he called?
It was Diami Brown, right?
Yeah, right. It was exactly who it was. He called Diami Brown immediately, right there after he got drafted. So yeah, I think it'll help both. I think it'll help Sam Howell to have someone who he's used to.
Sure.
There too.
I've always been a big advocate of that. I know we did it with Terry and Dwayne Haskins there. Didn't quite work out with Haskins, but it worked out well with Terry. So
first of all, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins.
Sure. But and I didn't mean that.
I know what you meant. But the team ruined Dwayne Haskins. I mean, Haskins had problems, but the team did him no favors. I mean, the team could write a book on how to ruin a quarterback and use Dwayne Haskins as an example.
Chapter 1 is RG3. Chapter 2 is Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a little chapter in the middle about Kirk Cousins and how not to do contracts.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty much Washington's been an example of how not to be a football team, to be honest. But that's we've said that enough. But please credentials for training camp.
Yes. I am not giving up hope on Brown becoming a decent receiver. you know, that first season struggle was tough with him. You know, he didn't get a lot of opportunities. You know, looking at his numbers, he only had 25 targets even, which is just not a lot.
It's what I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think would be a good second year for somebody like him? Bad first year? Is it shooting for 500 yards, something like that?
I think he would show that he's a player if he could get 50 receptions, at least, which would put him up in the 500-yard area.
Yeah.
You know, if he has another season of 20 to 30 or whatever, people are going to go, you know, De'Ami Brown. But if he gets up to about 50 receptions, he proves he's a legit contributor.
Right.
And that's, you know, I think that's step one for him.
Do you look at receptions first or yards when out of here? That's just a question.
Well, I look at both, but I would receptions first, because you can have players that, like the Cam Sims of the world, who are the big guys and they're in traffic, and you know they're not necessarily going to have a big yards per carry or per catch. Whereas like a guy like Deshaun Jackson, humongous yards per catch.
Right, Deshaun Jackson could have 30 catches and 1,000 yards.
That's right. And so for De'Ami Brown, I would want to see him maintaining high catch percentage while getting more targets, and that means about 50 receptions a year.
Okay, all right, I think that's fair. I mean, I don't know. You know, the thing is, if all these receivers stay healthy, there's a lot of guys who need balls.
They're not all going to work out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's the big main names for the year that we've talked about. So let's see what else we have left. Alex Erickson, who's a journeyman from Wisconsin. He's been around the NFL for 7 years. Never really made much of an impact, but he's there. I'm assuming it's more of a camp body situation, maybe special teams. Last year he had 3 catches for 55 yards. I didn't write down who he was playing with, though. Let's see who else.
You've got Ezzard is another one in that boat. Jaquez Ezzard, Jequez Ezzard.
Right. Okay. The rookie out of Sam Houston State. So small school guy.
5'9", 190 pounds.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Probably not a big chance of making it, but not impossible, of course. You know, every once in a while, guys just come out of nowhere. Kyric McGowan, Georgia Tech, another rookie. You know, there's always going to be a lot of these rookies who are just here to get a shot, right?
Yes.
So he's another one of those guys. Markin Mitchell out of UMass Amherst. First, he's not a rookie. He's on his second season in the NFL.
Well, actually, he was undrafted in 2016.
Was he undrafted 2016?
Yeah, that's what I have down.
Okay, so the team lists him as only having 1 year in the NFL. So
but that means he's been on a practice squad because it's not a credited year.
Gotcha. Okay, so he's just been bumming it around on practice squads forever.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's 29, so he's actually, I think he's the oldest guy in the room. Or his name is Erickson. So, you know, those are our older veterans.
Those are the grizzled veterans.
At 29.
Jaquez Ezzard and Markin Michelle.
I wanted to say Marco Mitchell, and I was like, that's not Marco Mitchell.
Is Marco Mitchell the guy who went to jail?
Was it that Marco Mitchell or Mix? I can't remember.
Maybe I can't. One of the two of them. Yeah. So if anybody wants a quick recap, because I know you do, of Markin Michelle's contract history, originally signed with Minnesota, cut through him a couple months later, signed with Philadelphia 2019, then cut a couple months later, signed with Philadelphia again, futures contract with Philadelphia, up to 2020 it was Carolina, where he stayed in various capacities for a year, and then he was claimed by Philadelphia again, waived again 2 weeks later, and now he's with Washington. So he's been bouncing around since.
And let's not forget, Steve, he did have one good year with the CFL there.
Oh, that's
Calgary Stampeders in 2017.
Amen. And then, look, I'm not trying to disparage the guy. I'm good luck to him.
No.
But, and then Dax Milne, I mean.
Whatever. Oh, right. Dax Milne, he was a 7th rounder. That's right?
Yes. He was okay.
Guy,
I mean.
You know, it seems like a lot of people were trying to hype him up when we drafted him. I didn't understand why.
Those are just fanboy, you know, people. That's it.
Sure.
You have to take a realistic view of 7th round picks.
Yes.
If they contribute at all, that's a win. Right. Dax Milne didn't contribute much, so.
He had 83 yards last year. Yeah. He's still on the roster. That's a win for him.
Well, right. Of course, he's a draft pick, so he's going to get a couple seasons.
Right. Well, sometimes 7th rounders get 1 year.
Sometimes they get no years.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's like when you get to 6th and 7th round picks, if they're on the roster after a year or two, I find that to be a win for them, and even for the team. I mean, it's just another body or it's a position you don't have to fill. So that does it for receivers.
Before we go,
yep,
we always do a guess as to the final active roster.
Right.
Okay, so the easy ones: Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson. Those 4 are in.
Yes.
I'm going to say Cam Sims makes it, and I'm going to say they keep only 5 because they've got a bunch of tight ends.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. The only way I would say Cam Sims maybe doesn't make it is if one of these other guys shows that they can be a really, really good kicker.
Yeah, comes out of the blue and is able to do something.
A kick returner. But we need a return man. They don't.
One of these guys is a returner. It may be Ezard. Don't hold me to that, but one of these guys is a returner.
Yeah. I think one of them is, and I didn't think to double check that part.
It might be Ezard.
Yeah. So maybe that beats out Cam Sims, honestly, because if you can be a returner, that's more valuable than a 5th receiver.
You give me 1 second here. Yeah. Let me see.
You look up him. I thought it was Alex Erickson might be a returner.
It might be. I mean, again, I couldn't remember. It's one of those guys.
Yeah, you look up Ezard. I'm going to look up Alex Erickson's stats right now.
Of course, no, I can't find it. Jaquez Ezard.
Erickson has done kick and punt returns before. He did it for Cincinnati for 3 years.
And that's who I was thinking of because Ezard is a rookie. So I mean, you're right. I mean, if Erickson can end up being the punt returner, he may be in.
Yeah, even though honestly he hasn't done it for 3 seasons now.
Yeah, but look how horrible Washington's been in punt returning.
Well, we had a good guy last year. We let him go for some reason, but we had a good guy last year.
They've been consistently one of the worst teams in the NFL in punt returns for a while.
Yeah.
That's our wide receiver position group breakdown. We're going to do running backs next week. So get excited about that.
Yeah. That will be – I love running backs. You know that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. We will see you then next week. Hope you had a happy 4th.
I don't know why they can't find a punt returner. It's amazing.